What does overrated mean to you? We define the word overrated as having a higher opinion of someone or something than is deserved. Many people overrate a lot of things in their normal society, like the value of cars, the value of clothes, that kind of stuff. But when you define overrated and connect it to sports, what team do you think of? Whenever I think about this question, I always have one team in mind, the New England Patriots, but they seem to always prove me wrong by having a winning record every season they play in. Seeing this team at number 1 through 5 in the power rankings, I believe this team is very overrated, but they always prove us wrong. So I guess you can say the New England Patriots are not overrated, but at the same time, this team is not underrated. The definition of underrated is to underestimate the extent, value, or importance of something or someone. You may connect underrating to your daily lives, like finding a piece of junk in the garbage that you think is worthless, but you actually find that is worth thousands of dollars. But when you connect the term underrated to sports, what team do you think of? This is a really hard question because it is uncommon for a really bad team to become really good out of the blue. But a really good example of this was the 2019 to 2020 Tennessee Titans and San Francisco 49ers, two teams that were thought wouldn't even make the playoffs. Yet, one made the Super Bowl and the other team made the AFC Championship game. Like I said earlier, I always think of one team when I hear the word overrated, and that team is the New England Patriots. But obviously proving me wrong, there is one team that is infinitely times more overrated than the New England Patriots, and this team is the Dallas Cowboys. The thing about the Dallas Cowboys is that this team was phenomenal 30 years ago. This team has 5 Super Bowl wins and hasn't appeared in a Super Bowl in over 20 years. This simple fact that they have 5 Super Bowl wins is so important because so many fans across the country, or as I like to call them, bandwagons, started liking the Dallas Cowboys and have turned that liking into a lifestyle that has been passed on generation through generation. I guess that's why this team is called America's team, yet 99% of Americans hate this team. But recently, this team has been performing well, having 4 straight winning seasons, all due to the draft picks of Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott. Now, this team went 13-3 when these two players were rookies, and absolutely stunned the NFL. At this point in time, I guess you could say this team was underrated, undervalued, and no one really thought they were going to be this good. Achieving the first seed in the NFC, they hosted the Green Bay Packers at home in the divisional rounds of the 2016 to 2017 NFL playoffs, and lost to a last-second field goal. I guess you could say this is a recurring thing, because we saw this with the Tennessee Titans destroying the Baltimore Ravens at home by so many points last season. At this point in time, many people are changing their opinions about the Dallas Cowboys, but it is not fair to overestimate this team quite yet. So let's move on to the following season. The 2017 to 2018 NFL season, the Dallas Cowboys finished with a 9-7 record, coming in second place in the NFC East. Many believe this team to become Super Bowl champs this season, obviously winning their division. Yet the Philadelphia Eagles came in first place with a 13-3 record, and the Dallas Cowboys didn't even make the playoffs. At this point in time, I guess you can say this team is leaning towards the overrated status. But debatably, we've seen this in the past with many teams, and it's not quite fair to call them overrated quite yet. So, 2018 to 2019, the Dallas Cowboys regained their confidence and came in first place in the NFC East with a 10-6 record. A 10-6 record obviously is not a good record to have with a first place divisional win, but I guess you can say it is accomplishment beating out the Eagles for first place. I guess you can say this team is trying to prove the doubters wrong that they are not overrated. Winning first place in their division, they hosted the Seattle Seahawks at home wildcard weekend and got a playoff win, proving the doubters wrong that they are not overrated. But the following week, they played the Los Angeles Rams divisional rounds and lost. The Los Angeles Rams went to go to the Super Bowl, so I guess you can say it is not bad that they lost to the Rams. With speculation in the NFL that many people think this team is a Super Bowl contender the following season, the Dallas Cowboys were predicted to have a great run in the 2019 to the 2020 NFL season. The Dallas Cowboys started the season 3-0, and this is when many NFL analysts thought this team were Super Bowl contenders. And this is where this team officially became overrated. And it is safe to assume this fact because the New York Giants, Week 1, became the 3rd pick in the overall draft. Week 2, the Washington Redskins, the 2nd overall pick in the draft. Week 3, the Miami Dolphins, the 5th overall pick in the draft. Starting 3-0 against the 3 worst teams in the NFL was a really great accomplishment for the Dallas Cowboys, and this is why the Cowboys became overrated. And we can say this because the following 3 weeks, they lost to the New Orleans Saints, the Green Bay Packers at home, and at the New York Jets. Starting 3-0, this team was thought by many people to be Super Bowl contenders, possibly win it. Yet, this team lost 3 straight games in a row after starting 3-0. So I guess you can say that this team was overrated at the beginning of the season, but it's fair to say that this team shouldn't be in the Super Bowl, right? Well, when you have NFL analysts still saying this team is going to win the Super Bowl after losing 3 straight games, how does that make you feel? It makes me feel like this team is one of the most overrated teams I've ever seen in my entire life. Starting 3-0, this team finished the season with an 8-8 record, not even winning their division, not even making the playoffs. And that is hilarious in the way that many people thought this team was going to win the Super Bowl. It is fair to assume that this team has received the title of officially overrated. One of the most embarrassing parts about the Cowboys finishing 8-8 is how they lost all these games. The Dallas Cowboys played a total of 9 games against 8 different opponents with winning records. They played the Saints, they played the Packers, they played the Eagles twice, they played the Vikings, they played the Bears, they played the Bills, they played the Patriots, and they played the Rams. Out of these 9 games that they've played, they only won 2 of them. And one of those games was against the Philadelphia Eagles, which doesn't even count in my opinion. The only notable win they had against a winning record team were the Los Angeles Rams at home with a 44-21 victory. And that is it. That is the only game they won against a winning record besides the Philadelphia Eagles, showing that this team is bad against good teams. Finishing with an 8-8 record, this team lost to 7 teams with winning records, showing that this team was so overrated at the beginning of the season and still continues to be so. You'd think the story be over by now, but it's not. The Dallas Cowboys had the 18th overall pick in the NFL draft and selected CeeDee Lamb. Of course, if you don't know, the Dallas Cowboys have one of the best offenses in the NFL, passing-wise. Dak Prescott, behind Jameis Winston, having the 2nd most passing yards in the NFL, yet this team finished 8-8. So the Dallas Cowboys select CeeDee Lamb. In my opinion, I believe they did this to get back at the Eagles, who were most likely going to select CeeDee Lamb and had to pick a couple picks after them. You can't possibly think that anyone thinks this team's going to win the Super Bowl, right? Well, you'd be freaking surprised that the Dallas Cowboys are currently ranked number 5 by CBS, number 5 to win the Super Bowl, behind the Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, New Orleans Saints, and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I don't know about you, but I can name 10 teams, possibly more, that should be ranked higher than the Cowboys. And they're ranked number 5 in the country to win the Super Bowl, number 5 on the power rankings, just because they drafted CeeDee Lamb in the draft. Like I said earlier in the video, the Dallas Cowboys are America's team with quotation marks around it. Obviously, nobody likes the Dallas Cowboys unless you are an absolute bandwagon or you were born in Dallas, Texas, or around the area, of course. So it only makes sense that so many people want this team to win the Super Bowl just because they drafted one player in the draft. Do I believe this team is going to have a winning record? Yes, I do. I do believe this team is going to win their division. I do believe this team is not a bad team. But is this team good enough to win in the playoffs and win the Super Bowl? Of course they're not. This team is so overrated, it has no possibility of winning a playoff game next season. And it's going to get absolutely obliterated by the 5th seed in the playoffs. And I say this because it is fair to assume that the Dallas Cowboys are going to get the 4th seed with the worst winning division record in the NFL. I do believe the Dallas Cowboys are going to have one of the worst records in the playoffs next season, possibly at 9-7. And it is a shame that division winners make the playoffs, because if it wasn't like that, the Dallas Cowboys would not be making the playoffs next season. Now let's talk about every team that should be higher than the Dallas Cowboys. So it is very obvious that the Dallas Cowboys are ranked 5th, possibly 5th best team in the NFL. Like I said, behind the Chiefs, better than them. Ravens, better than them. 49ers, better than them. And the Saints, who are obviously better than them. And like I said, number 5 is the Dallas Cowboys. At number 6, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are better than the Dallas Cowboys. At number 7, the Philadelphia Eagles, which are also ranked way too high on this list, are better than the Dallas Cowboys. At number 8, the Seattle Seahawks, who I believe are a prime team to win the Super Bowl, should be ranked higher than half of these teams, are better than the Dallas Cowboys. Number 9, the Green Bay Packers, who are better than half of these teams, are better than the Dallas Cowboys. We've only seen it in the past so many times where the Green Bay Packers have absolutely destroyed the Cowboys in Dallas. Another questionable pick at number 10, the New England Patriots, who should be number 20 on this list. CBS has many questionable picks, but it is very imperative that CBS isn't the only one who thinks the Dallas Cowboys should be ranked this high on the list. Number 11, the Buffalo Bills beat the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas last season. They're better than them. The Pittsburgh Steelers, behind the Bills, are better than the Dallas Cowboys. Number 12, the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know why they're ranked so high. Number 13, Chargers. They're ranked too high. Number 14, the Minnesota Vikings. They are 10 times better than the Dallas Cowboys. They beat them in Dallas last season. Raiders are ranked too high. The Tennessee Titans should be top 5 on this list because they made the AFC Championship last season and they deserve a higher spot on this list. They are better than the Dallas Cowboys. The Denver Broncos at 50-1, the Houston Texans at 60-1 are better than the Dallas Cowboys. The Arizona Cardinals at 60-1 are better than the Dallas Cowboys. Realistically, the Dallas Cowboys are number 15 in the NFL. Yet, many people believe this team is a Super Bowl contender. Having a higher ranking than all of these teams and not deserving it is the definition of overrated. So like I said, is this team overrated or underrated? It's up to interpretation, but I think you know the answer to that question.